The sun was high and merciless, flooding the empty highway with a glaring brightness that made every shadow look sharper, every breath feel heavier. And in the middle of that blinding daylight, a young woman in a torn red dress ran as if the ground behind her were on fire. Mara's lungs burned, her feet ached, and her heartbeat roared louder than the vehicles in the distance. But she didn't dare stop. Not when the two masked men behind her closed the distance with terrifying certainty. Not when the world felt like it was collapsing into a narrow tunnel with only one fragile hope at the end. Her life had become a single desperate instinct, run or die. And as she sprinted across the asphalt, she didn't know if she was running toward safety or the end of her story. If you believe kindness deserves a place in this world, if you believe in second chances and standing up for others, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner to help stories of courage reach more hearts. Mara had never imagined her day would turn into a nightmare. She had left her small apartment during the daylight hours, heading for work with a notebook in her bag and hope for a better tomorrow. She was a quiet, hard-working florist whose biggest dream was opening her own shop. But dreams have a cruel way of colliding with danger when you least expect it. The masked men had snatched her from a sidewalk, dragging her toward a van without a word, without a reason she could understand. She didn't know their names or motives, only that the fear in their movements was cold, purposeful, and merciless. When she managed to break free, it was pure instinct, a burst of adrenaline that pushed her legs into motion before her mind understood what was happening. As Mara ran, daylight shimmered off the hot pavement, making everything feel surreal, almost dreamlike, as if she had stumbled into someone else's nightmare. She heard one of the men curse behind her, the sound carrying across the empty road. Her breath shuddered, her legs threatened to collapse. But she kept moving because she could feel the danger closing in, step by step, breath by breath. And then she saw them. 3 men stood beside their motorcycles on the roadside, leather vests catching the sunlight, powerful engines gleaming like steel beasts at rest. They were members of the Hell's Angels, large, tattooed, imposing figures whose presence could silence a crowd. Mara had seen them once or twice around town, always riding together with thunder in their wake. But today, they weren't just riders. They were the only witnesses to her terror. The closest biker, a tall, broad man named Rourke, noticed her first. His expression shifted from neutral to sharp focus as he saw the terror etched across her face and the masked men charging after her. The other 2, Griff and Maddox, straightened, their posture tightening like coiled steel. They didn't need an explanation. The truth was written clearly in the way she stumbled toward them, desperate for help, her red dress fluttering violently in the hot breeze. Mara's voice was barely a whisper as she reached them, her chest heaving. She didn't even manage words, only a broken sound that carried every ounce of fear she'd been holding inside. And that was enough. Rourke stepped forward, an immovable wall of calm fury. Griff and Maddox flanked him, their boots planted, their eyes burning with the kind of protective instinct that comes from seeing too many people run from danger alone. When the masked men slowed, hesitating at the sight of the bikers, the road seemed to hold its breath. The men behind her tried to mask their hesitation with threats, but their voices trembled. The bikers didn't move at first, they simply stared, unflinching, as if weighing the intentions of the strangers and judging them unworthy in every possible way. The tension crackled across the road like static, wrapping the moment in uncertainty. Rourke finally stepped forward, not with aggression but with a level, steady calm that was somehow more intimidating than raised fists. His presence alone made the masked men inch backward, their confidence leaking into the pavement. The bikers weren't armed with anything more than their physical strength and an unspoken code, protect those who can't protect themselves. And in that moment, Mara realized she wasn't alone anymore. When the masked men backed away, fear replacing whatever cruel purpose they'd carried minutes earlier, the bikers made sure they retreated far enough that they posed no immediate threat. Only when they disappeared down the road did Rourke turn back to Mara, a gentleness replacing the hard lines of his face. Griff offered her his jacket without a word, and Maddox guided her to sit on the curb so she wouldn't collapse from shock. Mara tried to explain, her voice shaking, her fear still fresh and raw. But the bikers didn't need details to understand the weight of what she had endured. They stayed beside her, forming a protective circle around her trembling frame. The midday sun warmed her skin, but it was the warmth of their silent reassurance that steadied her heartbeat. When the police arrived, called by Griff while Mara caught her breath, she felt safe for the first time since the nightmare began. The officers questioned her gently, and the bikers stood close, making sure she never felt alone or overwhelmed. By the time the masked men were found and taken into custody, Mara's trembling had eased, replaced by a fragile strength she hadn't known she possessed. Rourke eventually asked if she needed a ride home, and when she nodded, he handed her a helmet with a reassuring half-smile. As she climbed onto the motorcycle, she realized something life-changing. Despite the terror she had endured, the world still held protectors who acted from instinctive kindness, even when they owed you nothing. The ride back through the sunlit streets felt like breathing again after nearly drowning. Mara held on tightly, not out of fear but out of gratitude, knowing she had been minutes from disappearing forever, and these strangers had chosen to save her without hesitation, without reward, simply because it was the right thing to do. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that kindness still exists in unexpected places, please like the video, subscribe, and share it so more people can feel the same hope. Before you go, tell us in the comments, what part of this story moved you the most? And as the sunlight continued